Suppose I give same task to an LLM using two different prompts. Both prompts generate valid results. But how do I know which prompt is actually better? Many people would stop at, wow, the output looks good. But that is not enough for a real world AI systems. In production, prompts are evaluated much like softwares. And this is where prompt evaluation comes into picture. So in this video, we'll build a complete prompt evaluation pipeline from scratch. We'll compare generic prompt versus an optimized prompt using both manual evaluation and automated evaluation. And we'll score the responses based on metrics like accuracy, relevancy, completeness, conciseness, and clarity. And the best part is we'll use a real customer support use case where the difference between good prompting and bad prompting becomes very obvious. So let's get started. So let's get started with what is prompt evaluation. Prompt evaluation is basically measurement of the prompt effectiveness by evaluating LLM's response on certain metrics like accuracy, relevancy, completeness, etc. So it become as important as unit testing is for softwares, but for natural language instructions. There are mainly two types of evaluation methods. One is the manual evaluation, where a human actually scores your LLM response, and the other one is the automated evaluation, where an LLM or an algorithm scores the LLM response. So there are a lot of automated evaluation techniques. In this video, I'll be discussing LLM as a judge technique, where an LLM will be scoring the LLM's response. So why we need prompt evaluation is because LLMs are non-deterministic and sensitive to wording. So even a small change in your prompt can dramatically change the output quality for better or worse. And prompt evaluation also lets you justify your decisions with data instead of just opinion around the LLM response. And you can iterate faster by knowing exactly what's improving in the prompts and compare different versions of prompts objectively. That's why we need prompt evaluation techniques. The metrics I'll be using for measuring the prompt effectiveness in this video are accuracy, which tests like if the information is factually correct or not, relevancy, which checks if the response actually answered the question that was asked, completeness, which is if all the important aspects were covered or not. Then conciseness is if the response appropriately briefed without losing the value. And clarity is if the response is easy to understand or not. And then we'll be calculating the overall score, which is basically the weighted average of all of these metrics. So let's get started with setting it up. So here I'm just importing few libraries from Python, and let's define our use case here. So here I have a generic prompt, some reference points which will be used for scoring during the manual evaluation as well as automated evaluation. And here I have the optimized prompt. And I have put in both the optimized prompt and generic prompt in this list, which I'll be going through when we do the manual evaluation as well as the automated evaluation. In this section, I have defined few helper methods. One is query model, which is basically making a call to the LLM. It has messages, which includes the user prompt, or if there is a system message, then it will also be included. And finally, it's making a call to the actual LLM. And there is this helper method, which is basically for displaying the response nicely. Then this section is basically about the manual evaluation. And here I have put in the scoring rubric, which tells like how to score it manually when you are looking at a prompt, and also gives like a good definition of all of these metrics which you can use when you are trying to score. And finally, here we have the definitions of how to manually evaluate it and how to calculate the overall weighted averages for all the metrics. The manual evaluation step just takes in the input from the user for each of the responses that you got from LLMs. Here I'm just going through each of these cases and querying the model, getting the response, displaying the response, and then calling this manual evaluation method, which will return the scores for each of these metrics, then calculate the overall score, and then print it. So I've already done this and I've scored this response for all of these metrics, which gives me a overall score after manual evaluation to be 0.84 for this generic prompt. And for the optimized prompt, we have 0.9. Next section is the automated evaluation. So manual evaluation doesn't scale much. When you have like dozens of prompts, it's very difficult for a human to score each of those prompts, right? That is why we need automated evaluation. And the technique that I'm going to discuss in this video is the LLM as a judge, which is a industry standard approach. So here I have defined a system prompt and a prompt which will be actually evaluating the model's response based on these scoring rubrics and reference points that we mentioned above, and coming up with a response which has scores for each of these metrics, right? And here is the definition for automated evaluation, which makes a call to the LLM with this prompt and takes in the actual prompt that we started with and its response, and comes up with the all the scores for all of these metrics. So here again, I'm going through each of the cases for generic prompt and optimized prompt, and calling the LLM, getting the response, displaying the response, getting all these scores by calling automated evaluation, calculating the overall score, and printing it finally. So if you see here, we for the generic prompt, the LLM responded with an overall score of 0.89, whereas for the optimized prompt, it responded with a overall score of 0.945. So it seems that the optimized prompt worked better in this case. Then finally, I'm comparing the results. Here you can see the automated evaluation as well as human evaluation for both generic and optimized prompts that we have, and then scores for each of these metrics. And you can compare each of these. So that's all I wanted to talk about prompt evaluation. So you can continue experimenting with different prompts. Also, I noticed while I was experimenting that it's not always the optimized prompts that give you a good overall score. So you can also sometimes have a smaller prompt which is more generic. Still, it will be end up being better than an optimized prompt. But this is a good way to evaluate your prompts, and you know with data you can justify why you want to go with one prompt than the other one. So keep on experimenting, and if you learn something from this video, then don't forget to hit like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.